Welcome top news today.
Next week, Donald Trump will issue his own fake news awards, going to the most corrupt, biased of the mainstream media, ahead of Trump's stunt attacking the press this week. atHRC is sharing 37 stories Donald Trump probably hopes you've missed from 2017, the stories that outline his disastrous, dangerous first year. Why 37, you ask? Because it aligns perfectly with his record low 37% approval rating. 1. Washington Post. After Trump bans words including transgender at CDC, gay rights activists predict consequences for GOP: vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, transgender, fetus, evidence-based, and science-based. The Trump administration banned these words from multiple divisions of the Department of Health and Human Services budget documents, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Despicable that Trump's administration is prohibiting the CDC from using a list of 7 words or phrases, including transgender. https://.co1trvpsvvkp Human Rights Campaign at atHRC December 16, 2017. 2. NBC News. 15 Attorneys General opposed Trump transgender military ban. The group, led by Massachusetts Ag Maura Healey, filed a brief in federal court in support of transgender service members. The brief argues that banning transgender individuals from the military is unconstitutional, against the interest of national defense, and harms the transgender community. 3. Wall Street Journal. Top general's view of transgender troops is at odds with Trump's Joint Chiefs Chairman Gen. Joseph Dunford told the Senate Armed Services Committee he believes that any individual who meets the physical and mental standards should be afforded the opportunity to continue to serve. 4. The Hill. Mattis appalled by Trump tweets announcing transgender ban. Report. Defense Secretary Mattis, who was on vacation at the time of Trump's decision, only had 1 day's worth of notice before Trump tweeted his announcement of the policy. 5. Huffington Post. White House states should get to decide whether to discriminate against LGBTQ students during a press conference. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer invoked states' rights when questioned about whether the guidance on transgender students would be revoked. Spoiler alert: it was revoked. 6. CNN. Tensions escalate after Tillerson calls Trump moron. An NBC News report in October found that Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called Trump a moron in a Pentagon meeting. 7. Washington Times. President Trump cancels sexual orientation questions on 2020 census. The Census Bureau issued an alarming corrective statement, asserting it had inadvertently listed sexual orientation and gender identity as a proposed topic in the appendix of a Bureau report. The correction suggests that plans for data collection for the 2020 census had included LGBTQ people, but the Trump administration has removed them. 8. CNN. Proposed budget cuts for 2017 include AIDS, AmeriCorps programs. The proposed budget cut $292 million from the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR. 9. USA Today. Trump's Army Secretary nominee withdraws over gay comments. Army Secretary Mark Green removed himself from consideration after atHRC worked diligently to expose Mark Green's shameful anti-LGBTQ record and rhetoric. Breaking: Army Secretary nominee withdraws over gay comments. https://t.co3 aim spike. USA Today at User Today May 5, 2017. 10. BuzzFeed. Why didnt Trump mention Pride Month? We asked 30 times. The Trump administration refused to acknowledge Pride Month, which previous presidents have embraced. Why didn't Trump mention Pride Month? We asked 30 times. https://t.coach.9b13xfgpic.twitter.com 8xgames. BuzzFeed News at BuzzFeed News. July 3, 2017. 11. New York Times. Justice Department says rights law doesn't protect gays. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions filed a brief seeking to undermine a growing legal consensus that LGBTQ people are protected from discrimination under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. 12. PolitiFact. Donald Trump had biggest inaugural crowd ever. Metrics don't show it. Lio. Sean Spicer's pants are on fire. Trump had biggest inaugural crowd ever. Metrics say no. https://9gobo3wm7mpig.twitter.com Pasquale, PolitiFact PolitiFact January 22, 2017 13 NJ.com Senate panel dumps Trump nominee Scott Garrett. The Senate Banking Committee rejected Scott Garrett's nomination on a bipartisan vote of 10-13. Senate panel dumps Trump nominee Scott Garrett. https://9fo6apig.twitter.com Kavlip nj.com a.com December 19, 2017 14 Huffington Post Trump judicial nominee drops out after embarrassing hearing. Matthew Peterson dropped out after a video of him failing to answer basic law questions went viral. Trump judicial nominee drops out after embarrassing hearing. https://t.cox1wbv6a1 via at HuffPost Pol. Sherilyn Ifill at Sifil. LDF December 18, 2017 15 New York Times editorial Mr. Trump's paper towels aren't helping Puerto Rico via GIPHY16. Think Progress. Meet the 8 transgender candidates who won elections on Tuesday in an incredible turnout of pro-equality voters. Americans across the country elected at least 8 transgender people to office in November. 17 NBC Obamacare repeal fails. 3 GOP senators rebel in 4,951 vote. The Trump and McConnell plan would have caused insurance premiums to drastically rise and leave millions of Americans uninsured, with a particularly devastating impact on low-income senior citizens, women, children, LGBTQ people and people living with HIV. Breaking: Republicans fail to pass a skinny Obamacare repeal bill. https://t.co-9zz4pig.twitter.com Multam7yj MSNBC at MSNBC July 28, 2017 18 The Atlantic. Trump defends white nationalist protesters. Some very fine people on both sides. Trump proved once again that he stands with alt-right, racists and anti-Semites. Trump defends white nationalist protesters, says they include some very fine people. https://t.cuts732su Rosie Gray at Rosie Gray August 15, 2017 19 The New Yorker. Trump abandons the human rights agenda. Just months into his presidency, it was clear that Trump was abandoning America's long-standing legacy of defending and promoting human rights around the globe. 20 CNN women detail sexual allegations against Trump. Several women publicly accused Trump of sexual harassment and assault. 21 U.S. News. Trump administration rescinds Obama-era campus sexual assault guidance. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos rescinded Obama-era Title IX guidance related to schools' obligations to address sexual harassment, including sexual violence, a move that will disproportionately impact LGBTQ people. 22 New York Times. Suburbs rebel against Trump, threatening Republicans in Congress. Victories on Election Day 2017 spell trouble for Republicans. 23 Los Angeles Times. Military poised to accept transgender troops, despite Trump tweets, as courts block ban. Qualified transgender people who want to serve their country in the military were finally allowed to sign up openly after the Department of Justice decided not to appeal federal court rulings blocking Trump's discriminatory transgender military ban. Military poised to accept transgender troops, despite Trump tweets, as courts block ban. https://t.co-iojckthc Los Angeles Times. At La Times December 26, 2017 24 CNN analysis. Trump's Russia defense in disarray. President Donald Trump's legal defense against Robert Mueller's unrelenting special counsel investigation is beginning to look as chaotic as his early days in the White House. 25 The Hill. Trump watches up to 8 hours of TV per day. Report: who needs 8 hours of work when you can watch 8 hours of TV instead? 26 NBC. Trump's presidency is bad for business. His own Trump's presidency isn't working out too well for his businesses around the globe. 27 Washington Post. Trump celebrates solar eclipse by looking up without special viewing glasses via GIPHY 28. New York Times. Trump attacks Warriors Curry. LeBron James's retort: "You bum." Trump used the power of his office to advocate for the suppression of voices of those fighting systemic racial injustice and inequality. 29. NBC Manafort notes from Russian meet refer to political contributions. Paul Manafort's notes from a controversial Trump Tower meeting with Russians during the 2016 presidential campaign included a mention of political contributions near a reference to the Republican National Committee. 30. NPR The missed opportunity of Trump's Asia trip. According to David Shambar, a professor of political science and international affairs at the Elliott School at George Washington University, it was all fluff. 31. CNN Trump nominee Sam Clovis. As far as we know, homosexuality is a choice. Logical LGBT protections could lead to legalization of pedophilia. Sam Clovis withdrew from consideration to serve as chief scientist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Sam Clovis' anti-LGBTQ attacks should disqualify him from serving in any position within the federal government. https://t.cowk9 New Human Rights Campaign at atHRC August 21, 2017 32. New York Times Republican shadow campaign for 2020 takes shape as Trump doubts grow. In interviews with more than 75 Republicans at every level of the party, elected officials, donors and strategists expressed widespread uncertainty about whether Mr. Trump would be on the ballot in 2020, and little doubt that others in the party are engaged in barely veiled contingency planning. 33. Washington Post. 3 former Trump campaign officials charged by special counsel Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos. Remember those names. 34. CNN Trump says he considered this Russia thing before firing FBI Director Comey. The president's interview with Lester Holt exposed White House obfuscation, unethical interactions with James Comey, and circumstantial evidence that the FBI director's termination was improper. 35. The Atlantic. Donald Trump's own words become Exhibit A against him. Trump shared in detail about the process of firing FBI Director James Comey in an interview with NBC. Donald Trump's own words are Exhibit A against him, writes at Connor 64. https://t.couch7loudpic.twitter.kgtext. The Atlantic. Politics at Theat Politics May 12, 2017 36. Texas Tribune report. Trump's judicial nominee from Texas called transgender kids part of Satan's plan. Jeff Mateer objected to a transgender student using a restroom consistent with her gender identity, saying, I mean, it just really shows you how Satan's plan is working and the destruction that's going on. 37. Vox. The political lesson of 2017 resistance works despite the Trump's administration's hateful and bigoted policies. We mobilized against the discriminatory agenda to ensure full equality and justice is achieved for everyone, everywhere.